Hey, welcome to Two Doctors Homestead. My name's Daniel, and I want to talk about Leave the World Behind, specifically the cyber attacks, or what appeared to be cyber attacks that were shown in the movie, and break each one down. It's actually my background, cybersecurity, and I spoke to some experts and people familiar with different areas, different exploits that you see in the movie. So I want to break it down, right, and just talk about what's the probability, what's realistic, and what would probably actually happen, right, with each of those attacks. So first one, of course, is probably the most popular, is the Tesla hack, right, in the movie. And I'm giving you spoilers here, unfortunately. In the movie, there's a scene where you've got the white Teslas shooting down the road in autopilot, slamming into each other, and the characters have to evade the cars as they're coming in. But you get the sense these brand new cars, fresh off the lot, are being autopiloted, or their autopilot has been programmed to go somewhere, and they're not doing any kind of collision avoidance. They're just slamming into the next Tesla in front of them, and you get the next one coming down the road. So what is that, right? Is that realistic? Where did they get the idea from on that? So if you look at 2017, so we're going back to 2017, Elon Musk got on a stage at the National Governors Association in Rhode Island and confirmed that a fleet-wide hack is one of Tesla's biggest concerns. And this was back in 2017, right? So several months prior to that, a white hat hacker, a cybersecurity guy named Jason Hughes, was able to pull off something similar to that. So he was able to use salvaged components from an existing Tesla rigged to his computer system to hack back in, create a secure VPN connection into the Tesla network. Now, they describe it as the Tesla mothership. So he created a bug chain. He was able to access the server images for Mothership, which is a server used to communicate with the customer fleet. He was then able to impersonate his car's VPN connection to gain access to a developer network connection on Mothership, which ultimately led him to getting the ability to send commands to Teslas based on the VIN number. Right, so he was actually able to hack into the back-end system and then use that to send commands to the cars back in 2017. At the time, there wasn't really the level of autonomous driving that you might be seeing in the movie. They had a feature that was called summon, and basically you could make the Tesla back up or go forward as it would in and out of a parking space. So it was a very short drive. So he was able to demonstrate to one of the developers on the Tesla side that, hey, I can take your car and make it back up 5 feet. It was a hack, right? He was able to hack into the network, take control, and they resolved that issue. He was a white hat hacker, so essentially did freelance cybersecurity. So yes, in a sense, historically, there was a point in time that someone was able to hack into the back-end network and take control of the cars. From Tesla's perspective, they resolved that issue. So I would say, historically, yes. Is it still a possibility now? It doesn't seem like it, right? They resolved that issue. Now, it's not to say at some future point, more sophisticated hackers, AI, something like that, could they repeat this? Could they do it to more autonomous cars to the extent you saw in the movie? I don't know. But looking right now, looking at what we see in the movie, I would say that was based on historical information that was even presented by Elon Musk. Is it possible now? Probably not. It's hard to say. All right. So the next one that jumped out at me was the airplane hack, right? So you see all the airplanes coming in, or multiple planes coming in and slamming into the beach, right? It was an exciting moment. So I spoke to my dad, who was actually an aerospace engineer his entire career, worked for some of the big aerospace companies in the world, manufacturing engineer, aerospace engineer. Had a conversation on it today and asked the question once again. So, are planes hackable? And I looked at some of the cybersecurity articles on that, and there is a concern in the airline industry that theoretically planes are hackable, right? There's a lot of computer systems there, theoretically hackable. So a question to my dad, which is, hey, if a hacker was able to take over the autopilot, right, couldn't the pilots just turn it off, because in the movie the planes are crashing. There's no pretense given that the pilots were dead or people on the plane were dead. The planes are just crashing into the ground. So couldn't the pilot just turn off the autopilot? And the answer is there is an off switch, right? They could turn off the autopilot. However, the switch is electronic, not mechanical. So hypothetically, if hackers were able to take control of the computer system in a highly sophisticated way, maybe they could bypass the switch that would turn off the autopilot, allowing them to take control of the planes. Now, that's a very sophisticated attack. It's not something we've ever seen. So it's absolutely falls into the realm of theoretical. Is it possible? Theoretical. Is it likely? No. The kind of attacks we see against airlines, against airports, are really on the back-end business, right? They can disrupt the airlines, they can disrupt bookings, they can shut down airports. We see those kind of cyber attacks. In order to take over the plane, you'd literally have to do it one plane at a time, and you'd have to have high-end knowledge, right? In-depth knowledge of the workings of the computer system on each plane to write a program that's going to go in and override those control systems. So highly sophisticated. So definitely the planes being taken over by hackers and flown into the ground. Once again, that's very theoretical, right? So theoretically possible, highly unlikely, and not the kind of attacks we see. Next one, the boat. So the boat runs into the shore. So I talked to a friend that was in the Navy. He was actually a helmsman. I'm not sure if that's the right term, helmsman. He got to sail the aircraft carriers, just got behind the helm on the aircraft carriers. Asked him the question today. In the movie, we see a cargo ship kind of slow glide into the shore. I'm like, what happened? So what's the possibility of hackers taking over a boat and doing that, right? What about the crew? Can't the crew stop it? So a couple things on that. So his answer, and I'm just going to read it, was yes and no. So the crew would only be able to manually shut the engines down. So this is assuming hackers were able to break into the ship systems, take complete control, right? The only response the crew would have would be to manually shut off the engines, which might mimic some of what you see in the movie, which is to say the boat sailing, it's not going to stop immediately, it's going to coast. So theoretically possible, if hackers got a control of the ship systems, the crew could shut the engine off and you could have this boat slowly drifting, in this case, into shore. So he did mention, I asked him, this is not secret information. The Navy did a study and found that 2 guys with iPhones, this was 10 years ago, could completely take over a destroyer. And of course they fixed it, right? Once again, this is like the Tesla situation where there was a moment in history where they ran a test where a professional white hat hacker comes in and says, hey, I found a way to take control of your system. Similar situation in the Navy, found a way to take control of the system. Obviously, they fixed it. So it's one of those things, theoretically, right? Theoretically possible. Now, I did do some research on cyber attacks on boats. Generally, it's going through the ship's Wi-Fi. So you would have to be close enough to the boat to get onto the Wi-Fi to connect in and hack into the boat. Not likely. Once again, not likely, but theoretically possible. So what you see in the movie of the boat slowly coasting into shore, if hackers had taken control of the boat's systems, theoretically the crew could have shut off the engines, being the only thing they had left to do, and it just slowly coasted into shore. So that's one of those things that theoretically, right, the boat going to shore, theoretically possible. So, but unlikely. I'm going unlikely. Just like the causing a plane to crash, unlikely. Once again, they can turn off the autopilot, so you have to be highly sophisticated to disable the autopilot. Same thing on the Tesla hack, which is to say there was a point in history where someone did that, but it was all internal. They fixed it. Could it happen again? I couldn't say, right? I couldn't say if it's something that could happen again, as you saw in the movie. Next one, you see internet down, potential power outages in the city. Sure, right? I mean, that happens now, right? There's stories I saw recently in Ukraine where, hey, cybersecurity shut down, or hackers break through, they shut down the internet, they attack the cell phone providers, the carriers. It doesn't take much of a Google search to see that, yes, hackers do have the capability to break into cellular networks, communication networks, and cause disruptions. As far as taking the internet down, there's a difference between creating disruptions and taking the internet down. Now, the internet is a matrix system, right? Decentralized matrix system spread across countless data centers across the world. I've been in some highly secure data centers. You're talking about foot thick concrete walls. They're not soft targets. So, can you completely take down the internet everywhere? I personally doubt it, right? I don't think that's a thing. Could a hacker cause service disruptions where your phone stopped working in an area or for a provider? Sure, right? Those kind of things can happen. So there is a line there between they created service disruptions versus, the entire internet is taken out. Only way you can take out the entire internet would be something like an EMP, a CME, nuclear war, one of those things, right? The internet is here to stay forever. Last one I want to cover, satellite phones. So once again, not hard to find articles about hackers having the ability to take control of satellites, having the ability to take control of communication networks. So in that sense, yes, right? Theoretically possible, realistic for a situation where hackers have downed the satellite phones just like they could the internet, just like they could cell phone signal service, just like you could see power interruptions. So for that part, absolutely possible, right? Some of the more advanced things, taking over the cars, the planes, the boats, that's highly sophisticated and unlikely, right? They go after the companies, they go after the shipping companies, wipe the manifest, they go off the airports, mess up the booking system, stuff like that. Those are softer targets. Those targets, generally they can do ransomware, they're making money on those attacks versus, hey, we're just going to shut your boat down. That just doesn't happen. Can't say it couldn't happen. Very unlikely, but that's where we're at now. That's where we were at 2017 with Tesla. What about the future, right? And that always concerns me when we start talking about things like AI, right? AI is here. It's becoming faster. It's becoming more advanced. You think about things like quantum computing, which is still very much in the future. AI is good at writing code, so I think we will see as AI comes in line as a hacking tool, as a tool that hackers are able to take advantage of, and they probably are already. Social engineering, information gathering, writing the code. AI is going to be part of that, is already part of that, and will continue to be in the future. So when we look going forward, sure. I mean, it is only reasonable to expect as we go forward we will see more cyber attacks. As we're seeing cyber attacks right now, there's rumors of cyber attacks going on in the U.S. I talked to a friend in Cyber Command who doesn't tell me any secret stuff, but does say like he's not really seeing what you're hearing about on things like Twitter where there's these massive cyber attacks. So yes, in the future, but they're going to go after the targets you're seeing they're going after right now, like going after the power grid, going after communications. Most of them are going after, it depends. Like if you're an independent organization, you're doing ransomware, right? You're trying to get money. You're cyber using cyber attacks to try to gain money. If you're a nation state, the name China's come around on the cyber attacks we're seeing right now. I don't know who they are and how, to the extent, right? I can't find anything outside of Twitter on the fact that there's cyber attacks going right now. That's going to create disruptions, right? And we see disruptions, and nation states can create disruptions, but it's things like power grid, it's things like communications, it's going to be things like your banking, those kind of disruptions. The rest, I would say, is more theoretical. Can't say it's completely made up because there's some basis around the attacks you saw in the movie, and it certainly made for an interesting movie, but until you have Skynet, wouldn't worry so much about that, right? So I wanted to get that out there. All in all, I've seen some people that love the movie, seen some people that said they hate the movie, leave the world behind. Certainly interesting from a prepper perspective, if nothing else. So as always, thank you for watching, and we appreciate you.